Pam is not going to make it,
Oh, okay.
and Gordon has had an attack of mice on his trailer, which he was going to take on vacation tomorrow,
Oh dear.
and he can't make it. So it's 3 of us.
Okay, that's okay.
And I think
Mice.
mice, the little 4-legged critters, just ate everything alive.
Oh dear.
So I'm going to call the meeting to order at 5 minutes after 5. I'll take a motion to approve the meeting minutes from July 5th.
I approve.
You make the motion.
I make the motion.
You make the motion.
To
I
approve.
second it. It's been approved and seconded. All in favor? There are no certificates of appropriateness reviews that I am aware of, except we do have a couple of them in the mill.
Okay.
And when somebody comes up to you after they find out that you're in the Historic Commission, tell them that it's usually, we have to have 14 days in order to get the paperwork into the newspaper by at least 7 days, isn't
At least 14.
it? At least 14.
Well, at least 10,
Yeah,
but yeah,
10.
we prefer.
And we have to get the letters out to the abutters. And that's what's going on. I've had some people say things, but the problem is, I'm not sure that, I think people are really hesitant to do much because we don't have, an inspector. And they're also hesitant to do something, I might be totally wrong.
You would think that would have the opposite effect.
Right.
Well, you would think that, except, we have a wonderful amount of new people here. I just met 2 of them who were right down in Bradford, and they're going to be rebuilding their house that they bought, and they're so excited about. And Bradford isn't really in the historic district, as far as I don't have a map here. But I said we'd be glad to come. It's the Ova lady.
All right. Hi.
How are you?
Like your hair.
I'm well. How are you?
I'm fine, and the eggs are good too.
Good, I brought you
Good,
boxes.
thank you, you're kind, we needed them. I brought them in because I didn't want to parboil them in the car.
That's good of you.
Either eggs, children, or dogs. We don't have
I don't know, children maybe.
Yeah. Okay, so, old business, we're into that. Discussion about the Maine Preservation Commission workshop.
Right.
I'm going to try and go to both of them.
I'd like to go to at least one of them. I haven't filled out anything online. I think we were sent some kind of a link for a
Yeah,
survey.
okay, all right. And I'll be glad to drive, so it'd be much easier. And you're working.
I would love to be able to go, but I don't have vacation time to use to do that.
Yeah, okay.
And are you going to go with us?
I can't, I'm out of town both days.
Because we could really,
Pam, I bet Pam would want to
Pam will probably go, yeah.
go. Yeah, I think she would be very interested.
Okay, I'm going to put her name down anyway. That would be 3 for each one, and I can take 7 in my. So if you know anybody, come off the street.
Now, did you say that there are, Marion said there were no funds or there are funds?
Marion said that she would be glad to pay our way if, as soon as I get money, thank you. This is for AIDS, I just want you to know.
Instead of self-payoff.
And they're wonderful, beautiful ladies.
Yeah.
You think that you're in the middle of Easter season with them. They're all different colors.
I'm going to, can I just pop in? And
Oh,
pick up-
please do. That's what this couple over in Bradford who bought the house right across the street from the Rafters, and they're from North Texas.
Wow.
And he's, what is he? He is English, and they came in just to buy eggs. And of course, when somebody walks up my driveway, I give them this speech about history and commissions and things like that. And then I sell them eggs. Okay, I'd like you to, do you have the thing that Megan sent, Megan's comments?
I do not. And
I do,
Do
so
you?
I can make, do you want to read it, or do you?
I'd be happy to if you want to share some with me.
I think this is something that we should actually put in the record. You should have a copy of it.
I can just include it, I can scan it and put it right into the record.
Okay, great.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to write this all in the notes. I'm not that good.
It had to be like short.
You-
I have
so
one
you got
right
it.
here.
Sarah,
Okay, do you want me to read this aloud just for the?
Yes, I do,
meeting?
I want it to go onto the tape that's being
Whatever.
made.
All right, yeah.
and there must be somebody else.
And speak
There are
into
five
the,
I will do my best.
That's what I mean.
okay.
Well, you know, I'm not proud either.
So,
Quiet on the board, please.
Sorry.
per Megan's comments about our ordinance, here was her feedback on our ordinance and perhaps ways we can make it better. Item 1, the following terms need to be added to the definition section: archaeological resource, major change, site, object, non-contributing, and preservation. Item 2, 10.3.1.1 language needs to be added to this, that members should have a demonstrated interest, knowledge, or training in historic preservation or closely related fields. Where professionals are available in the community, their qualifications will conform to the Secretary of the Interior standards as outlined in 36 CFR 6.1 Appendix A. Point 3, under duties, it needs to be added that in each commission member, I'm sorry, that doesn't make sense. It needs to be added that each commission member is required to attend at least one informational or educational meeting per year sponsored by MHPC. Item 4, under duties, add in an annual report of the activities of the commission shall be submitted to the MHPC. Item 5, under duties, establish and use design guidelines which build upon the Secretary of Interior standards and guidelines for the treatment of historic properties.
I've already updated our ordinance with all of her suggestions
Fantastic.
in red, and I think I handed them out 2 months ago.
Yeah, I'm not debating this, I'm just,
Oh, okay.
Yes, this is for the official record.
this is just for our record and also for the streaming, so
Oh, okay.
they know we're doing it. And I am going to send them a copy of the report that I made.
Okay.
That's something that I should do.
Item 6, the criteria for designation of local landmarks and districts should be based on the National Register criteria for listing properties on the National Register of Historic Places. Currently, the criteria closely follows SACO's ordinance, which is fine, but make sure to have a criteria for archaeological resources. And item 7.
Let me add something about
Yes.
that. This is what she said about archaeological resource. A geographic location of the remains of prehistoric life or historic human beings. These include, but are not limited to, structures, artifacts, terrain features, graphics, paintings or drawings, and the evidence of plants or animals.
Wow.
When,
Have we got any prehistoric people here?
I feel with prehistoric.
Yeah, so after
Um,
this heat, yeah.
Have you got that in an email or something from her?
This
Because that was gonna be my next question of how do we define this? And
yeah,
how
this
should
is
we define it? I don't think I-
this is the definitions to add per Maine Historic
Okay.
Preservation Commission.
Got it.
Okay, 6/21/18 must have been
In her final point was point number 7, 10.5.1.1, add in review all new construction affecting historic and prehistoric and/or districts within its jurisdiction to determine if locally listed prehistoric or historic archaeological sites will be affected.
Also on this, on the definitions, the thing that's been thrown around a lot with us was non-contributing property. And let me just read this out, not only for the benefit of the audience who may or may not be watching this, but for my benefit and our benefit. Non-contributing property. A non-contributing property means and includes any building, other structure or site that does not add to the district's sense of time and place and historical development. Or one where the location, design, setting, materials, workmanship, or association have been so altered or so deteriorated that the overall integrity of the building, structure, or site has been irretrievably lost. Although changes to a non-contributing property may not have historical significance, they may affect the historic integrity of the viewscape and the district as a whole. And you probably know where I'm driving on this particular comment.
I do.
Ordinarily, buildings that have been built within the 75 years prior to the year of application shall not be considered to contribute to the significance of a district unless a strong justification concerning their historic or architectural merit is given by reference surveys, 174, wherever that is, or the historical attributes of the viewscape are considered to be less than 75 years old. Age shall be determined based on architectural surveys on file in the town office. Susan, do you know of any architectural surveys on the garage?
No. But it was built in the 30s and was the first Ford garage in the state, I believe.
That's what I believe. In the case of a disagreement, I love these comments, an architectural historian recognized by the Maine State Historic Preservation Commission shall be consulted. Now, do you remember when we first heard about the garage being demolished? And we were told en masse, this was May of
2016?
2017, that the garage was a non-contributing property, period, paragraph. And we just sat there, I sat there with my mouth wide open trying to figure out why in the world this was said.
Who made that determination?
The state did. And we asked the same thing, who made that? And that I still am not satisfied with the case of what this is going on. And I really feel that it's our historic commission's obligation to bring this up, saying, hey, look.
If you remember, their position at the time was that the building had been so altered, right, like it says right here, that the architecture, the overall integrity is irretrievably lost. And arguably, yes, if you go look at it, it's been remodeled to hell, for lack of a better term. What she did say at that point was, and this was in and around the 106 review, was that they would make a consideration if people from the town stood up and said, and put together information and came together and said, this is integral to the town from a, not emotional, but a historic, but not based on its architecture, but based on its meaning to the people in the town. And that was about the only thing that was going to save it.
Yeah.
And that sounded like a long shot when she explained that to us.
Yeah.
I mean, really, if you look at the outside of that building, you can still see what the old building, how the old building looked. It's sort of like the way they changed the roof on the library and restored it to the way it had been, you know, at some earlier date. So it's not like that building couldn't be brought back to the way it looked originally, it's just, I thought that boat had sailed.
I believe that boat has more than sailed.
I mean, I think.
Especially since we're not talking section 106 review, we've got no recourse.
Mhm. And that's the other thing that I'm a little baffled at, and I'm not debating about this. I'm just saying, why weren't we given a little bit more time and approach by these particular ideas?
I think it was a deliberate, decision to go around the HPC.
Especially when they decide not to accept federal funds.
Exactly.
And that changed the entire ball game, that is, and club for that
I
matter.
hate to see that building go.
Yeah.
Especially since it
Well, the thing
would
I-
have
you know,
brought businesses
I'm not
and
sure we
people
have
walking
enough-
around the town,
Exactly.
but
But it's almost like this could really happen to almost anything around here.
That's true.
You know, and it's scary in that fact because, as I said, we've been getting a lot of people coming in to the B&B, and they're all enamored with the historic value of what we have in this town. I mean, four other, Australians who stayed with us for 3 days were they loved it. And that's what I'm trying to make, is that I realize these are part of Maine Historic, but if something like this does come in, I think that we should have the right to hear what they're doing it and why, and what's behind it.
probably as long as we're not dealing with MDOT, we will.
And maybe there's a workaround. If we become more proactive and we do more architectural surveys and get more buildings in our town cataloged and put part of some register or something, if we can get that going, then I think we're safer because.
I think you're absolutely right. That is a
I
valid.
would like to get copies, and they're available at the state. The state has them, of the work that we did 30 years ago, cataloging houses in town.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and do that, or do you want one of us?
I'm only a consultant, I think it would
Yeah.
have more
But
clout.
you are
But
really,
I'm
you are
happy to
never
call.
emeritus too, we've already crowned you.
How would we find this, Susan? How could we do
Or
the
what was
research?
Ask for specifically. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'll call the state, but
Yeah, I would too.
as long as they know what I'm asking for.
I think Maine Historical is where I would start. We know they're up there.
And these are the one that you and,
Marguerite
Marguerite
and a whole
and,
bunch of other people worked on.
Surveys of historic buildings in town from 30 years ago.
Yeah, what happened was that when we wanted to go on the National Register, I think I've got the timeline right, of historic places, Marguerite had, and I forget how it was done, whether it was a high school project or whether we hired somebody, I can't remember. But among other things, you'll see in houses around town, a little,
Yeah, the circa.
yeah.
It's not a circle,
Yeah,
it's an
the
actual-
bronze plaque, or the plaques, or
the little wooden plaques, there are
Yeah,
a lot
okay,
of
Yeah,
houses.
Okay, you can
Yeah.
see the one over the
Yeah.
door general there.
Yeah, and that was done then, and that whole report went up to the state. And I think that Ben was going to get it back, I don't know. But I will call Maine Historical and see where I go from
You
there.
will? Okay, all right.
What's the name of the historical person?
Meg?
Megan would
Megan.
probably,
Okay, I'll call Megan. She's probably not there.
and it would be great to get a copy and actually have the town have it in their own library.
I don't know, I have no idea why it went out of the town. I have no idea.
I think probably somebody dropped the ball.
Probably.
It just makes it, They
I
didn't
think-
think it was important. Good, we all,
I think we need, while we're on the subject of the latest news from MDOT, I think what we need to stress, I intend to go to the selectman's office, to the selectman's meeting next week. This is not a question of a building. It is a question of respect for the law. And this is not just this law, it's for any law. I see no reason for me not to park wherever the hell I damn please, whether it's legal or illegal. Why should I obey the law if nobody else is going to? And this
I
is
agree.
a principle
Yeah,
that
it's a
has
principle.
nothing to
that-
do with that property,
Mhm.
except that that property has become the focal point. But it is a law enacted by the citizens of the town and supported by them in 2 other votes. And we obey other building laws.
We obey all laws.
We ask people to obey subdivision laws. I think this is, as I say, it is not to do. I'm sorry. Never thought, my family's been here for 250 years, and I never thought I would say that I'm ashamed to be a citizen of this town, and I am. Enough said, let's move on.
No, I think this is a very important thing that you said, and I agree 100,000% with you. And I think all of us do. It's like we said, a law is a law, is not, and if it's passed by the people, then, okay, it's a law. That doesn't mean that you can break the law indiscriminately whenever you think you want to do it. And I don't care, it can go all the way up to Washington and all the way down to the guy who is working with his hands and digging a ditch. Laws are part of our fabric. And if you break the fabric, then you ignore it, and it's wrong. And the way you said it is exactly the way you should.
That's the way I'm going to say it.
And it's just like reading this, when you read these things that they send to us and say, well, you know, you have to do this, and this is because, and this is why. And you look at it and say, well, if that's why didn't we find out? Why didn't, and the thing that bothered me more than anything else was the court case. How can they do that and ignore the people? And especially living here in New England, which is the hotbed of
Hotbed of democracy.
democracy. You know, I come from the Midwest. You know, we sort of came in after you guys, and I expected you know, everybody to get up.
You're bandits anyway.
Yeah, start beating on the, floors. But anyway.
Well, I mean, maybe it's a tragedy to lose the garage, but maybe this is an opportunity for us to figure out how the HVC can become more relevant, more important, more involved, stronger, harder to deny. And, maybe we need to take it up a notch.
I think we do, and especially, for instance, we have another, Le Garage is very, very historical in the fact that it was a machine shop, and it's still got the tools in there, and it's been part of the structure of our particular history. Now, what if somebody came in and said they were going to, let's just take it down, rip it out, and put in a new plastic building, and have lobsters and all that stuff? Well, I would be up throwing our particular historic ordinance in their face. And I want to be sure that that's protected in this town. And until they do exactly what you just said, Susan, I don't feel it's protected.
No, nothing is.
So let's work on that particular thing. And I think by going to these particular talks and thing, and although the last one that I went to 2 years ago, I was not impressed with the fact that people could stick up for their historic rights.
for their
There was a
historical.
way that they had, and we, you know, Richard and I,
Mhm.
and went through these things, and they got us all together, and we would take a subject, and we would be told how to deal with it.
Mhm.
And it was opposite of the way that we would actually deal with it. You weren't supposed to make any waves. You were supposed to sit back and calmly let things roll over you. And I know you for a fact, you don't allow that. And it's true with all of us. And I just want to, I really hope that these particular things, on the September 12th and October 24th, are good.
I do too.
Because when I went on their, you know, their survey monkey, was that what they had?
Mhm.
I put down, they said, well, what do you think is one of the major problems? And I said, how do you work with MDOT? And I put it straight out to them. And I haven't heard back from them.
No, they don't respond to Survey Monkey very well.
Or that might just be a topic that they fold in during the workshop.
Well, I think it's going to be really interesting going to those meetings and seeing just how many people do that, because we're not the only ones who've been sort of steamrolled.
Steamrolled, exactly. So how do we come up with the money that we need to pay for these surveys? Is it something that
We become a CLG.
Well,
That's right.
I asked, you know, Marion, and I said, what do we have in our budget? And she said, nothing.
Yeah.
She said, we were going to use the $1,000 that it was indicated that might be in our budget for a secretary. So, you know, I'd be happy to give you the $1,000. But it was somebody that we were supposed to get, and it turned out that she wasn't available. And so I asked, well, how do we pay for these things that we want to go to? And she said, I'll be happy to take it out of my funds. So,
But she's probably not going to take a whole architectural survey out of her funds.
no, not the survey.
I'm not sure an architectural survey has to be done by an architectural historian per se.
Probably has to
A
have some
lot of
oversight,
it.
but
But a lot of it can be done in the big brick building. So I spent an awful lot of time in there, going through deeds and chasing deeds back, and that's no fun, but it can be done. I mean, I was lucky, in my house, I happened to know when it was built. I think you know when yours was built. But I think yours is one of the ones we chased.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to do that. Marie and I have chased a lot into that building, but we've also chased into Jane's room upstairs in the library, which I think is really fun because it's stuff that.
Oh, yeah.
Treasure trove.
But I agree.
And I don't know how much is computerized now.
All of it. It's all been scanned.
All of the.
It all has been scanned, so I can do it
Everything's
from
been
home.
scanned, yeah, you can do it at home.
All of, everything that's in our library?
Everything that's in
No,
the
no.
deeds office.
Okay.
In deeds.
Okay. That's helpful.
Yeah. Because when we went in about that lot, we went into and got all the backing, you know, all the history out. And it was amazing because they could get it out, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, it'll be 15 minutes. Really. It was great. So I think it's maybe that kind of information we could compile it into.
That, yeah, we don't have to go around each one before we do it. The other thing is, I am closing in on the application. I've had other things this summer, unfortunately, to be on the National Register, just to see how the process works. And once I get all the application finished, I'll present it to you.
Oh, that's great.
Great. Great.
Right, because understood the process and made it simple, then we could get people in town
Exactly.
to jump on board.
Exactly. And there are a lot of houses, there are very few houses in town that are on the architectural,
Mhm.
on the National Register. And I think more should be.
I'd be willing to jump on after you're done and go through the process too.
Yeah, because your house certainly should be.
Yeah.
And the more we can get on the National Register, the more clout we can
That's right.
have, I
Agreed, yeah.
think.
And certainly the more buildings are protected.
That's right, yeah. Saving Wiscasset one house at a time.
Well, there's our tagline.
Yeah, exactly.
Another thing is that if we do the deeds, we can have a better way of searching Wiscasset's archives and library and also LCHA, because we can do it by name and
Certainly,
maybe
yeah.
come up with a sketch, dear mom, this is where I'm serving as a au pair in 1873, which we might not have a photograph of, but we can see 1873.
Wow.
I don't know, architects didn't seem to be very good about architectural plans. I don't know if they,
I don't think they used many architects, I think they just.
No,
You
they
didn't
just
have a
did
lot
it.
of, well, you didn't have a lot of architects, you had builders.
Right.
And that's a whole different.
Yeah, but no, you've had architects.
You
too.
did have architects, but I bet 75% of the houses had tangential architect, or they had a builder with an architectural book.
That's right.
That's
This
how.
style of-
Well, the
Many, many,
Soho
many
house-
houses were built
Soho
especially.
house was done that way. Peggy was talking about the fact that the rooms that were added on after the base came out of the 19th century into the 20th century, and people just sort of
Oh,
changed
yeah.
it around.
But what I care about is the original,
The original ones, yeah.
and I
absolutely.
don't think those necessarily were just builders. The Sortwell house wasn't. My house wasn't. Castle Tucker wasn't. The library originally wasn't. It was all done by people like Silas League.
And the smaller if it's an architect here in town,
Mhm.
the records are not as likely to survive as if it's a John Calvin Stevens,
Right.
let's say.
Let's not.
Yeah. Well, I know that the Poundborough Courthouse.
Sorry, you know.
I know that the Poundborough Courthouse was, the architect was flagged.
Mhm.
And they found it, they found the original plans, but that was probably because it was the courthouse, that's why they had it.
That's why they had an
And the other people, oh, well, you just go ahead and do what you want.
Yeah.
Exactly,
The shipbuilders in the winter.
so,
Mhm.
good, that gives us a lot of good thinking, folks.
Right.
Have we done anything about presenting the idea of CLG again to the selectmen?
No, but we should do that.
Have we gotten anywhere about what the CLG would? We need to put down what the CLG would do for us in a printed letter to them, and then go present it.
I think we were going to each come to a meeting with a draft of that, but I don't think we ever
Yeah.
got to that point because it's summertime. But that's a good idea.
Am I misremembering? Didn't the CLG require that the town have a planner?
I don't believe so.
I'll have to look. I mean, we could.
I hope not.
I may be remembering it completely wrong, but I thought that was true. That it required
I've got some information that I was looking at today on the CLG, Certified Local Government Program. And we've done the first step, which is to contact the State Historic Preservation Office. And it facilitates this federal program for the National Park Service. And what is a CLG required to do? Community must address the following minimum goals, demonstrate to the state and NPS that they are committed to historic preservation. Well, what more do we have to do? Establish a qualified historical or historic preservation commission. We've done that. Enforce appropriate state or local legislation for designation. Oh boy, here we go. And protection of historic properties. Well, we tried.
Well, the designation we've got in our,
Yeah.
that's why I want to get this National Register thing.
Maintain a
Because it's
system
one of the
for,
things that,
yeah. Then I've got it on another red check. Maintain a system for survey and inventory of local historic resources. In progress, I wrote 2017. Provide for public participation in local historic preservation program, including participation in the National Register process. So that's exactly
That would
what,
do that,
Mhm.
yeah.
that's the next step.
That is the next step. And we could actually, after we have enough experience and sort of and are able to walk through, to demystify the process, we could have this on our website that we're talking about creating, that's going to focus on historic properties in town, images of historic properties in town, photos from the library, like a resource, and, you know, a blog, whatever.
I'm working at the moment on reissuing a little tiny book that came out, and the library's been out of it for a while, which is photographs of a lot of the historic buildings around town
That'd be great.
and a small history of
Yeah,
them.
I've got one of those.
That little yellow,
Yeah,
yellow
little
book,
teeny
yeah,
tiny
it's so
one,
cute.
yeah.
We could scan that and put that on our website too.
I think I've got that one on DVD, whatever those things are, discs,
Okay.
CDs.
Oh, good.
So you would have to.
I'm guaranteeing nothing about getting them off to anybody because my computer's
And your
my
mailbox
board
is
president
probably
has,
And your mailbox is still full.
no, it isn't anymore.
Oh, really?
That one I did get,
Yeah.
finally.
Purge the mailbox. 'Cause
So whatever happened with the street light on High Street?
That is my other, I'm gonna ask the selectmen, do I get 2 5-minute periods?
Yeah, really, you have better cover, you get your points in quick.
Yeah,
Oh.
because that's the other thing I've got on my mind is why hasn't that been done?
And that's
Yeah,
another.
are we talking about the same thing that I think we're talking about the garage?
No, we're talking about the big high street light that they put on High Street that doesn't.
Oh,
match
that
the-
one, yeah. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
how we're going to the opposite side of it, where is the building that was supposed to be rebuilt?
What are you talking
You know the building that went in back of the foothouse that we took down?
Oh,
Don't
the
go there.
carriage, yeah, that carriage house never was
Don't go
open
there.
again.
Well, it was told that, we were told that it was going to be rebuilt.
Yeah.
No.
But I'm not gonna, you're probably pretty right on that.
What did you say, Susan?
I just don't know where that streetlight thing,
Oh,
Yeah, that came
but
in.
meanwhile, the Chase House is coming along gangbusters. And they're planning to have the whole house as a house. He likes big houses.
This is the musical wonder.
Uh-huh.
That's
They're
good.
doing it.
I'm going back to calling it the Chase House.
Okay.
Good.
That's really good.
And well, we've all seen what they're doing in the front.
Yeah, it's good.
They've got the most amazing formal English garden going on, being built in the back with statuary and paths and shrubbery
Wow.
and
Love to see.
and I'm just cringing next door thinking, oh God, guys, come on, give me a break.
I'm so
Yeah.
glad. Yes, it's really great.
They're really nice. I've met them only once because I was having a drink with my tenant and I saw them, I heard all this going on. So I went around the hedge and I said, I am the owner of the house next door who you haven't met because I'm not living there at the moment. But I just want to say thank you. And this guy looks at me and said, huh? And I said, for taking down those aluminum storm windows. I mean, and obviously they weren't gonna put them back because they were breaking them. You're gonna hear trash flying.
Wow,
It's wonderful, what they're doing is wonderful.
yeah, it really is.
And that's, you know, it's not just that house, the Chase house. But if you walk around, and I was gonna suggest this to all of you, walk around town, and there is this thing going on here with people who have bought, and they
Yes.
are doing wonderful things.
Mhm.
They're just, you know, they've got teams working and.
Oh gosh, the customs house is incredible on the inside. The job they've done is stunning.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Job they've done outside is stunning.
Right,
yeah.
right.
And
It takes
all
a
the
lot
things
of
that
money.
people
How did you
do.
get in there?
We
You
were
just
there-
charged over and said,
We were there for 4th of July and they were nice enough to let us come in
Ah.
and take a peek, so.
What are they doing in there?
They've turned it into a residence and it's just,
it always has been.
uh,
Since it was a post office, it's been a residence forever.
it's
It was a
all
gift
open
shop.
on the inside
25
with
years
these
ago.
15-foot
Residence
doors, they
inside.
restored trim.
Are we talking about the ledges?
No, the
There's
customs
customs
house.
house.
Although that's coming along nicely too.
Oh.
Which one is that?
The one opposite the garage.
Yeah, the brick.
The big brick
building.
building.
Oh,
Used to be
yeah,
a post office.
the custom, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, great,
Gosh,
yeah.
it's stunning. They've done a
I haven't been
beautiful
in
job.
there since I was driven around by a 96-year-old man. It's wild. No, I mean, and that's happening. I mean, if I wish the newspaper, ma'am,
Would do a
would
special.
do a thing on
Yeah.
all the development, historic development of houses and
That's a
homes
nice
within the
idea.
historic district that's going on, without a town planner, without without an inspector. And these
That's right.
people have gone in and done COAs,
Yeah,
and they're just wonderful.
yeah.
I've been
And
wondering about some of the work that's being done though, that hasn't come before you.
which work is that?
Well, like the ledges.
There's no reason.
The Legends,
Time before,
the
they
Legends
haven't
is
changed
working on
anything
the
else.
inside though.
Yeah.
I
No,
agree.
they've been
They haven't changed.
No, they've
Painting is,
been painting and repairing. They haven't changed anything.
yeah, if they would touch, and that's George Freeman.
Yeah, he's pretty
And
good.
George is really, really into historic preservation. And fortunately, he has a lot of money, but we went to that, one of our young people here is,
Jason Putnam's.
yeah, Jason's thing. And I haven't been in that bar for, 20 years since we sang opera there, so.
I'd like them to finish the cupola. It'd be nice.
Yeah,
Where's lunch?
But
It's
a
just
neat,
looks-
neat thing.
Awful, compared to the way the rest of the building looks.
Well, I think we're lucky that it didn't become the Gray Lady.
It's-
And also the one that was owned by George's sister, right next door to the library. That's now being completely for sale
Oh,
too.
yeah, that big scroll.
And so it's just a matter of time where that comes in.
Yeah.
But things are really
except
looking
they may
up.
not want to change anything on the outside.
Yeah, no, listen, they can do a lot to the inside as far as I'm concerned. When they start going outside and we can see it from a public access, that's when we will intrude into their lives and say, we suggest.
Well, it's true, it's not even, that sounds too negative. We'll guide them.
We'll guide, well,
Guiding.
we'll intrude by guiding them.
So, and I think that's another thing that I was wondering, it seems to me like our application COA could really be made simpler, cleaned up. Maybe we could do something to make it easier for folks to complete, and maybe a way they can add to the COA, or like, when people have projects that are running, they want to add on to COA. Maybe there's some way we can make that process, either have it online, make it downloadable, make it easier.
I think it is downloadable. I think it is.
Okay.
I
But
think
it's
the
like
COA,
12,
well, they
isn't
can
it like
always,
12 pages?
yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I think that there is an update on, or was, in Stan's office, because I had talked to him about it, and I did an update that was like 3 pages, which I think I've still got on my computer somewhere.
Yeah.
So I can chase that out.
Okay.
Well, I think, and if somebody wants to modulate, wants to change within the COA, they have called me, and I said, if it's not a major change, like if they're changing particular, woods or different compositions, I would rather not accept, another COA being done. But I do want people to understand that we are aware, and we need to be aware if there's going to be a change in it. Now, whether they need to go through all this paperwork, I'm not at all for that idea.
No, I don't think they have to go through a completely new COA, but if they've started, for instance, just off the top of my head, if they've started to paint the house and find out that there's a whole lot of rock,
Right.
and they want to put up,
Yes, new trim, new window trim or something.
Yeah, new window trim.
Yeah.
or like that, I think that has to be an addendum or
Yeah, and it-
okay, we've approved your basic first thing, this is a change, just come in with a change.
Right, exactly, and
And
not have to
refer
file
back,
again
yeah.
and pay the fee again and all that kind of stuff, streamline it
Yeah.
somehow.
Well, just like with my house, I have to replace a wooden gutter. Now, where do I find, I know wooden gutters are just something like $35 a square foot. And I have a 20-foot gutter that.
If you find it for that, please tell me where.
Yeah, I know. Well, I used to know where the guy, John Morris, over Rec by Bay
Yeah.
Ironworks. And he was great, but he's no longer got his yard. And I'm not sure that he retired from it. That's the only, because he was the one who told me about having a wood gutter. And now I'm gonna have to do a COA because I might have to put up a metal gutter. But I don't want to put up a metal gutter because, it could fit, but I would rather have the wooden gutter. And so right now I'm trying to, I've been working on the inside, doing a tile floor finally, because the other one rotted out. And now I'm looking up, and I see that wooden gutter, and I think, oh, you rat.
I put a new gutter on our house, 6 or 8 years ago, and I got it through Lloyd, over in Edgecombe, wait a minute. Lloyd Lawrence. Lawrence.
Would you send me all the information,
I will.
please? Because I don't want to get up on the ladder and I'm getting tired of it. And I've got scaffolding up anyway from what I've been doing on that side. But, yeah, that'd be great.
Okay,
And you like the gutter you got?
I do. It works. It doesn't have to be cleaned out. It's a special kind of a thing. And it doesn't show. Yes, I know it's there. Yes, if I look at it. But it's not like these great,
Big monsters
Yeah.
hanging out there? Well, we just finished our roof, the whole roof, everything is done now. And when the roofers went up, they would of course put like ladders. And
Right.
listen, I got this gutter that goes like
Oh,
this.
yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh God. And Ree says, aren't you gonna get that gutter fixed? Yes, ma'am, I will.
she's your support service, remember?
Have you guys seen the nice progress on the little house on Fort Hill, Stephen Jones?
Oh, yeah, I'm
They're
so
putting
happy with
siding
them. They're
and sanding
just, that's
roof.
great.
It's really looking cute.
Yeah. In fact, we also have, where Elliott Field lives,
Mm-hmm.
A new family moved in there. And that has got some weird architecture in it. And I can't figure out. And they
Inside is really
What
weird.
house is that?
Yeah.
Elliott Field's.
Elliott Field's house.
Oh, okay.
And it's right across from Greg Shaw's house. And we did Greg came in here because he was gonna put all new windows in. He did it, and of course his house was, absolutely beautiful. But the thing that I've noticed about people who buy homes here, they get really excited about historical, doing all these things. And it's so neat to talk to them because they're positive.
Yes, well, you have to be a little bit crazy to buy a really old house. It takes a special kind of person.
But that door is great.
Looks good, doesn't it?
It looks great, and your fence
It's looking better
looks
now.
really, really good.
I
We were
wouldn't
walking the other
go
day, and
back.
it just,
okay.
and I know fences in that particular house are not things that,
That fence will never look great, but as it gets older, it gets silvery and it's covered with morning glories and stuff. It's not quite so unattractive, but it's still. not
And you've
great.
only got a month left before it gets cold.
Oh, don't tell me that.
Okay, good. Next meeting. I'm not going to say anything about the next meeting because I don't know if I have a COA coming through.
Okay.
And so I will let you know. And we were just talking about this earlier. We need 14 days in order to get things out. So as far as I know, the way that COAs are coming in now, they will go into Mary because she's now got another job to do. And then it goes into Kathleen, and then she sends it out to us. So until you know, I will not have data on
I saw a notice in the paper, I think Gina wrote the article about some houses being built on Federal that are Habitat for Humanity houses.
You guys approved that back in
They came
October.
through?
Yep.
Okay, great.
that.
Nice.
We have one house at 50, I think it's 51 Federal, and he wants to put in all new windows. And I got an email from Mary and said that he was going to apply for a COA.
Did we approve 2 buildings for Habitat?
Yes.
2, okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
One, two,
it was
and one
2.
three.
And I believe that I have no reason to believe that Habitat has changed from where, I really appreciated what they did. And it's a really good thing. I will probably get another email from him because just like everybody else today, he's not quite sure where the chain goes and how to follow it. But other than that, I think it's looking really good, and I will be there at the meeting. Okay, Susan, when you get up in front of the selectmen.
Oh, yes, when she gets up to talk about the street light and the other things.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do?
No, I think you're
I'll be
gonna
there to
get up
support
and do
you.
your thing, and I'm just saying that it would be nice to see all the historic commission there if they can.
I have a City of Portsmouth Historic District Commission guidelines for windows and doors.
Oh, that would be helpful.
And I was thinking that it gets a little bit complicated, but it might be a nice thing for people to have if they're applying.
Great.
I'll run some copies if you think so.
So would we want to adopt those same guidelines for Wiscasset?
Well, I think, yes, adopting them would be nice. I'm not quite sure how we go about adopting guidelines without having them in the ordinance. This could be just suggestions. If somebody comes in and says, my house has nothing but aluminum windows,
Yeah,
I mean, I don't have to agree with Birch about their windows, but, and also alternative materials and their use in historic districts.
Where did you glean these from? Were you just walking into Ames and?
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
I sent for it. This
Gordon
one
is
is prepared for Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
And I snatched it from a friend. One of the things that is going to come up, I think, though, how much does anybody know about rubber roofs?
Oh, they're great.
I'm about to have one put on my greenhouse
Rubber roof.
because I said to Evan when the first roof failed, Evan, he said, we'll just replace it. I said, no, it's a pleated metal roof. I don't want it, didn't want it in the first place, but that's what came, that's what my architect wanted to put on. You don't pay the guy big bucks and fight with it, you know? It was a great pleasure to me to write and say, But, so we're putting on a rubber roof. It's a small, you know, just a little tiny amount,
Mm-hmm.
but it's sounding pretty neat.
Really?
What are the advantages? Is it recycled material? Is that?
I think it's recycled material. If it goes on a little bit easier than shingles. I still think asphalt shingles are great. Cedar shingles would be better, but they don't last as long. It has to. I mean, I did cedar shingles on my house,
Wow.
and unfortunately, in the deep dark woods, they rotted out.
Mm.
But I'm going to try to find out more about this roof.
Yeah, I think that, you
Because
know.
as an alternative to the pleated metal, and it's not hideously expensive.
Huh.
I like this idea of suggestions, and if we're going to do this website, that would be another thing, that we'd have suggestions, a downloadable COA.
Can you do a website?
Yeah,
IT person over there?
I think I could.
I can. I mean, I don't think.
It's just a matter of where it would reside. Would the town allow us to host it as part of their, like, you know, a link on their website? Would they host it? Because that's really the complicated thing. Is
Yeah.
who pays for the hosting? Who hosts it?
I would think that they would let us.
I'll talk to Marion on
Okay.
that. Website.
The nice thing about the rubber roofs is that if you have an issue, if you've had an issue in the past with ice dams,
Mm-hmm.
it eliminates it completely.
Mm-hmm.
And so a greenhouse, that's not likely to be a problem, but in other issues,
Yeah.
where you've got places where, like I have a flat part of my roof, the rest of the roof is no problem at all, water, snow just falls right off, but then it ends up on this flat piece.
Mm-hmm.
We put rubber there and we've never had a problem again.
Mm.
Good.
Mm.
So my last question to you guys is, what about the idea of sending a flyer or once we get a website, send something out to the local realtors so everybody around knows that we're the HPC and we've got all this stuff online and we expect that you have to submit a COA, blah, blah, blah. Like some advocacy, so there's never a question that the people that are coming to town understand they have to go through the correct process.
Mm-hmm.
Does that?
We did a letter, and we did, well, I've still got copies of it, and I'm not sure that, was it ever sent out?
I believe we discovered
I
that it
don't
was
think
never
it
sent
was
out.
ever sent out, so we can use that as a basis, and,
And I will also, the other thing, and I apologize, I have not updated the properties that have changed hands that have new owners
mhm.
on our list, and I'm sorry.
No,
Apologize about that. I just
that's okay, we don't. So that's, I'll look at that website hosting and ask Marion
Okay.
how we can do it. Let's see, Marion, may I have $5,000?
yeah. but I think they will. We might be able to do it through Maine Historic.
That's.
Yeah, you know, that's also so another idea. You might bring that up to Megan,
All right,
okay? So,
okay. Well,
that'd be
that's-
great. Okay, let's keep on working, and you're gonna send out those things about the windows, those pieces, are you gonna copy them?
Mm-hmm.
And if you put them on if you get your computer working, you can send it to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm all for that. We should really have, it would be really neat to have a booklet or envelope filled with things when somebody comes in here. And letting them know that, you know, who we are, and these are the things that we like. And I've been sort of collecting this stuff, and I've just been waiting for a place to give it.
Mm.
Well, repository like online would be
Yeah,
the
online
most
would be
efficient thing to
perfect.
do, and
Yeah.
point everybody to it, and that way you don't have to print off reams of paper and hope people will read it.
Okay, anything else, anybody like? Thank you for showing up on such a hot day, guys. I really appreciate it.
I needed eggs. Otherwise, I was gonna opt out. Well,
Motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Heading to our next broadcast in 1 month.
oh, speaking of broadcast, did our thing go off?
No, it just
It
gets
just
dark.
goes dark, the screen goes
Oh.
dark. But it's good to do now that you've got all that information on the deeds, you're gonna do like the original house records again? Like, so you can order plaques, that would be good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, you know, I just thought I'd start with something relatively easy, like High Street, mainly because I know a lot of the former, you know,
Right.
back when. Lee Street.
Speaking of Lee Street, what's happening with that house that has all the junk?
Theoretically, he's supposed to have it cleaned up by now, but
He hasn't.
I know, we do not have a codes enforcement officer.
Wow. That's a
So
tragedy.
I will try to email him and say, hey, you know, you've done it, made a good effort, but how about,
I feel bad for the people that just moved in next door. They got to look at all of that old mattresses and garbage.
yeah, it's not his, actually.
It's the Irishman's.
Yeah,
Well,
Has nothing to do with,
well, it has a lot
well,
to do.
yeah, it has it, but, you know,
Well,
it's a sorry situation. It's
it
sad.
really is. All you need is to get a dumpster over there, load it up, done.
Yeah,
All the dump.
but it's hard to do when it's not your stuff.
Yes, you can't really just.
You know, got junk,
Yeah, you can, if somebody leaves it behind. If somebody moves out and they leave their junk behind, it's out of
Landlords have been successfully sued for just getting rid of people's junk.
Well,
yeah, it has to be for a certain amount of time, like years.
And don't think that he won't sue. The Irishman.
Yeah, where's he living? Now, he's got a house somewhere else.
I don't know where he is. He was also part of St. Patrick's for a while, and
Oh,
it was really interesting because he really is a very good conversationalist, but he comes right out of left field. I mean, it just and it's a shame because it's a long story. And I'm glad it's changing. This.
yeah.
I was afraid things were going to become a little bit worse.
Well, no, I mentioned it to Stan, I don't know, this spring or whenever it was. And he said, I'll go over. Or said, I've been planning to go over. I said, Stan, for how long? He said, all right, I'll go over.
Well, now we have a problem with our new neighbors because his basement has flooded 3 times.
Funny thing about that, he wouldn't listen, would he?
No, no.
Didn't
And
you
now
just
we
tell him
have,
50 times it was gonna flood because of the water?
Yeah.
yeah. And then on top of it, when you wanted to put, when they wanted to run the water into the sewer, the town would not allow them. Because there's a law against taking any water from, a watershed and putting it into the town sewer.
Then how did he get a building permit? I mean,
No,
that's.
no, the water from his basement.
Oh, the water from his.
And it's right, and it's,
no.
now we have a river running in front of our house, so
Oh,
that's,
gosh, really? Is that what they do? They just pumping it out and dumping
and
it out?
that's,
I was
and
gonna say,
that's a
that would have
pump.
just pumped
That's a
there.
pump. And they're working hard to make the house look good. So,
I can't wait till they start the gardens.
Hmm.
Although I hope they won't have that little wagon.
well, you should hear what,
I am not a gardener, but I love looking at gardens.
I love gardens.
I do pot gardening only.
You're going to pot?
That's what I was thinking. That's not the first thing that comes to mind.
I'm not saying there's anything
They
wrong
are
with that.
beautiful plants.
yeah. By the way, tell Pam what's going on.
I will,
Sure.
I will. She's very interested in the website
For a
idea.
couple
Good.
of months and then it gets
Tell
hot.
her that-
Uh-huh.
that
Or it rains.
she's been put on the list for both of them.
She's been
Middle of the
volunteering
weeds.
because she wasn't here.
And irrigation
Yeah,
drip
Yes.
system.
Okay.
All right, guys,
It
thank
works
you.
great.
Be in touch, guys, let me know what's going on.
Stay cool.
Yeah, raccoons destroyed Donald's hose.
Mm.
He's not a happy camper. At which point Bella appeared with one of her kids. And he goes out and feeds her a second supper. I said, that raccoon has already been here once. Yes, but she's got her baby with her now.
You know, there's an epidemic of rabies right now.
Mhm.
I'm just saying,
Yep.
I would not encourage those things around my house.
I wouldn't anyway. I want to find the woodchuck that